everyone. It's Minnie here with My Body, My Pod, a reproductive freedom podcast. We're here with our friends at Abortion in America, a storytelling project that harnesses the power of stories, real life examples of what it means to have your pregnancy in a state with an abortion ban and the devastating consequences of these policies on real lives. We're excited to be here. Abortion in America, as a reminder, was founded by our good friends, Cecile Richards, Lauren Peterson, and Caitlin Joshua, post the Dobbs decision to really make sure we're getting out these stories. We know these stories are the most compelling and persuasive way to talk to Americans and explain to them the importance of reproductive freedom policies and laws. So we're here at their convening and excited to dig into some of the stories with some of these very, very brave women. Hi, everyone. It's Minnie with My Body, My Pod, a reproductive freedom podcast. We are here with our friends from Abortion in America as part of our partnership to make sure we are disseminating stories of folks who've lived through pregnancies in banned states. And today, I'm just really honored to be joined by yet another storyteller from the state of Georgia, where we know, quite frankly, we have a really big fight this midterm, but also a lot of education and work to do in a state that has one of the most significant maternal health crises in the country, maternal health deserts, and now one of the most dangerous abortion bans in the country. And thank you so much for being here. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Avery Davis Bell. I'm a mom and a scientist, and I had to wait and fight to get abortion care when I was pregnant with my much wanted second child, and I was bleeding and leaking amniotic fluid much too early. And we had to wait with my excellent team of doctors, and lucky to be in the big city, so I didn't have a care desert. And still, we had to jump through a lot of red tape and unnecessary hoops and wait until Yahtzee. My blood numbers look so bad that it's definitely an emergency. You're probably in danger of dying. Yes, I can have my surgery, my D&E, my abortion.
Wow. So you are one of those stories. So let's wind back. Georgia, as we know, painfully well, has a 6-week abortion ban, which is before most people know they're pregnant, right? So talk to us about your pregnancy. You already had a child, so you knew your body. You knew what to expect in a pregnancy. How did you find out you're pregnant, and how did this transpire?
Yeah, so I'm a tracker, so this was a planned pregnancy.
You're a scientist.
I'm a scientist. I knew that I was pregnant before
before 6 weeks.
Before 6 weeks, before 4 weeks probably. Yeah. But only
this was planned. We were planning it.
We were planning, like, IUD removed to have our second child, and things were going all right, and I did know about the ban. I didn't love that, but I also knew I was a really strong self-advocate, and I was at an academic medical center, and I was in the city. And then I started bleeding at 7 weeks pregnant.
So you were at an academic medical center. I was at an
academic medical center.
So you're basically like, I don't know the statistics, but it's probably like the top 5% of folks in your state.
Absolutely.
In terms of education, awareness, knowledge, access to resources.
And I have a PhD in genetics, and I did a PhD project with an IVF clinic. I'm very well informed.
Like, you're in this
I'm like,
field.
My doctors, they love me, they hate me, because I'm such a good, they're like, it's really good you advocate so much for yourself. But I am in it. I know everything. I know when I need things.
But can I just say, it's totally crazy that in this day and age, you basically have to be an expert,
and I think,
to navigate maternal health.
And I obviously don't know, but I think if I weren't an expert, if I didn't live in a big city in Georgia, it's like if I had lived 200 years ago, I probably would have died.
Right.
But if I had lived now in a different place,
right,
in my state that I moved back to before I had my children, so I could be close to my parents.
Well, like Amber Nicole Thurman.
Yes.
It could have been you.
Yeah, it could have been me.
So you found out, you didn't find out, you were tracking.
I was tracking. Planned. I got pregnant pretty easily. Found out. Then at about 7 weeks, I started bleeding. I went in and found out that the embryo at that point was, still developing normally. But I had a very large, what's called subchorionic hemorrhage. So that's just basically you get a pooling of blood between your uterus and the sac protecting the baby. Small ones of these are normal, routine. Mine was huge. It was, as bigger than a twin, kind of top 5 my OBs had seen in their career. And they said, okay, we've seen some of these go to term, and we've seen some of these not go to term. And we need to watch you for basically losing so much blood that you're unstable. And also sometimes there can be too much pressure for the fetus. But, I was committed to this pregnancy. I have a job where I'm able to work from home. I was advised to do low activity and as much bed rest as I could.
Yeah.
And I have family nearby. I have all the things going for me.
Right.
And so I said, okay, we're putting mom on pickup. My grandma's helping, grandpa's helping, my husband's doing more. Because I already have a child. I had a 3-year-old at this point. And we kept going, got better, got worse. I ended up hospitalized several times in my second trimester. But I was strong. I was young. I got iron infusions. This was the point. It was already pretty hard, where I should have been able to choose, is this a pregnancy I want to go forward with? I think I probably would have chosen yes. This because I was able to keep my job and be on bed rest.
Right.
And my doctors hinted to me, like, this is the time where some people around, 16 weeks, like, you're losing a lot of blood. We're worried. We can't
tell you.
We can't tell you, and we cannot provide a termination. But this is the time when, were we somewhere else, we might start those conversations. And we did have a conversation with, if this does become emergent, because in Georgia we have exceptions, right? Which, yes, is, I guess, better than none. But there's just no list of exceptions that's going to encompass everything that can happen in a pregnancy. Just doesn't make sense. That's not how the human body works. But I knew at that point that I needed, if things were to become an emergent, I needed a D&E, a dilation evacuation, rather than, an induction, both of which are terminations, right? But why? I was bleeding.
Yeah.
They needed to control the bleeding.
Right, and that meant your life was at risk.
My life was at risk. And the doctors who can do these in the kind of mid-late second trimester where I was getting, it's after a fellowship, right? They've had so much training.
And are they even there in Georgia?
Well, they are, at Emory, at like a special clinic.
Okay, and they're still doing them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they're still doing them. But
under
extreme scrutiny
and restrictions and documentation
need. And that's what I got to. So I had sort of the best case you had, where
you really did.
All these doctors were aware of me and that I might be coming in, and still I came in. I'd lost an enormous amount of blood, was feeling terrible, and it turned out I came in right around 18 weeks that my water had broken. It's way too early at 18 weeks. So now the pregnancy is doomed. Miscarriage is inevitable,
and the pregnancy is doomed.
And I'm at double risk now because I'm losing enormous quantities of blood, and I'm at risk for sepsis from the ruptured membranes.
Yeah.
And that is the point. And we all knew, and we knew I needed a D&E. The doctors knew it, and everybody started working. But it was unclear when I was going to be able to get that, because it was unclear. I was at risk, but was I dying yet? Right? Was I fulfilling the things of the law yet? And so I ended up
waiting.
And
the law's designed. Yeah. So this is important. This is really, really important. A lot of anti-abortion lawmakers design these laws with exceptions. And our position has always been exceptions are designed to fail, and they are like political stunts. They're not designed to work. And your story is a great example of that, unfortunately, because you fit all the exceptions. Yes. But doctors were being scrutinized to double, triple, quadruple check. And how, if I go to court,
yes, exactly.
Can I prove that this exception, like, how close to death do you have to be?
Exactly. Where is the line? And like, is that a black and white dying knot? That's not how health works.
But also
that's how
policymakers and government shouldn't be deliberating when you get what close to death is.
No, and also like the people who had 10 years of medical training for the fellowships to do these. Let's trust those people.
Right.
And when we learned that my water had broken, and so we were already worried about the blood loss. But then when the water had broken, we knew the pregnancy was doomed.
Right.
My husband actually, he started crying, grieving our expected baby, and I said, I love you. You got to stop, because our job is to get me care and to work with these doctors. And when they roll me into that operating room, that is when you can have your feelings. And when I wake up from the operation, that is when I can have my feelings. But until then, you watch me. I'm going to watch myself. We're documenting because we're trying to get, and I'm like, I'm feeling dizzier. And the doctors are like, good. Like, let me know how that is. And then,
because you were like, at some point I'm going to be unconscious, and I need you to be the medical expert in there. Like,
and because I'm like, this is what we need. And I'm a scientist. I'm very, data oriented. I love you so much, but I was like, and people say, were you afraid? I was like, I was too busy to be afraid right then. Afterwards,
well, you were too busy in the process of dying and advocating for myself
at the same time.
And
telling my mom and my husband, I'm sort of like, I can't take my notes anymore because like things are getting blurry. So can you do this? And then the next day, what happened is I had another set of labs drawn. And I look, because I'm, I'm this kind of patient. I'm up in my chart before my doctors see it.
My chart.
And I'm like, ooh, that's a low hemoglobin level or low iron. And I was like, I think that qualifies me for an automatic blood transfusion. And sure enough, doctors come rushing in. They're like, good news, you need a blood transfusion. That counts as an emergency. We can prep you for surgery.
Oh my God.
But of course, I was 18 weeks. They can't just take you into surgery.
No.
You have to prepare your cervix. And I had a previous child. He was a C-section. He was a breech baby. So I've never delivered through my cervix. And so this is the other thing, is that ideally they would have, are you okay with medical nitty-gritty? You can always...
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So ideally for these, because it's important.
This is, well,
it's details, but it's important.
I will just say this is so important for listeners who are planning their own pregnancies.
Yeah.
Because most people... and most women, they don't get this level of detail.
And you shouldn't have to know all this.
And like our producer of this podcast just had a baby 2 months ago. I don't know that she has this level of detail, quite frankly.
Well, and you shouldn't have to. And yet, it helped save me. Yes. That I was this invested. So yes. So ideally what they do this late is place what are called laminaria, which are seaweed sticks in your cervix.
Yes.
Because they can slowly expand and dilate your cervix safely.
Wow.
But that takes at least 12, usually more like 24 hours.
You didn't have that.
I didn't have that. I might have had it right when I entered the hospital, had we been able to just do medical, what the doctors wanted, but I didn't.
Like a standard of... Like
a standard of care.
Yeah, a standard of care in a different state would have been...
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But then I was too emergent. Luckily, we still were able to use misoprostol, which is...
Yeah, this is really important.
Which is really important. They're trying to ban it. And was for me slightly less ideal because I was so far along, but misoprostol can soften your cervix as well as, cause contractions and stuff. And so because I had started, like my body was aware that the water was breaking and
it was beginning the
process, the doctor checked me and said, okay, I think we're safe to do misoprostol. And that's a 3-hour prep. So that, but this was still, so we get numbers that say that.
Yeah, a different way. Like if this was a ER in a state without a ban.
Why would they do it a different way?
Could they
have done it a different way?
I mean,
you need a preparation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, ideally, we would have been able to place the laminaria as soon as I came into the hospital.
The point here is ideally a standard of care would have been the minute there was some sort of, potential crisis, they would have started this procedure just in case.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And we knew. Yeah. Once my water had broken, we knew this had to happen.
It was obvious.
There was no turning back. This was now a doomed pregnancy, and I was at double risk. And we had to wait because, is this close enough for the law, right? And again, is it
close enough for you to die? Were you close enough
to count? To count to get care in my state. Yeah.
So then, how close were you?
Yeah. Pretty close.
They deemed you were pretty close.
They deemed I was pretty close, and I didn't let that in until after. And after I got out of my G&E that night, I just cried from relief.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't been scared, But that was a psychic block.
Yeah.
And
You
that
were
was
protecting yourself.
I was protecting myself. And I got out of there and I just wept because I'm here. They made me get to risking my living child, being left motherless.
Yeah.
For a doomed pregnancy. And
do you think on some level your husband also was grieving you?
I think so.
Yeah.
And my mom and my dad, everyone was
they were
so
scared.
They were. And they tried actually.
I mean, you totally were right in the way you approached it with them, but also they were scared.
They have to deal with a lot of me feeling or being right. But they tried to talk to me in the weeks leading up, and you're looking really gray, and I was like, nope,
don't talk to me about it.
Hearing that, I am having this baby. We will not be discussing that until we weren't, and then I was like, we will not be discussing that because I will be getting care, and we are fighting for that. We are not, and then afterwards, it really was, oh, wow, this has been incredibly scary. And it's been scary for me, and it was very scary for my family.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. And so that was that night, and then the next day was when I woke up just unbearably sad.
Yeah.
For my expected child that I never got to meet, and also really angry at. I just feel that the state dishonored my family by making us go through this. It's like insult to injury in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
It's like, let's make
injury
this
in the worst possible way. I feel like that's the headline.
Let's make this loss, this true sadness, right? That's already a medical crisis. Let's make sure it's life-threatening.
Did you ever think about going out of state?
So this was a consideration, going out of state. The issue was, by the time that it was bad enough where where we knew where I would have decided, yes, I want to terminate the pregnancy, I was too sick.
Okay.
Because you don't want to be
which is why you shouldn't have to leave state. You should be able to get all your care in the same place.
Yes. And I was like, at least we have this exception, and I'm 8 minutes from the hospital at my home. And that's true. I was lucky in that I got to be hospitalized while they watched me.
Right.
Until it was time for care. And
just rewinding a bit from your story, again, everybody knew what they were dealing with earlier.
Everybody knew.
Much earlier.
Yes.
That you were
that I was a high risk
patient. You were in the system. You were advocating for yourself. You literally worked with these people.
Yes. Everybody knew.
And you were the advocate we are now seeing you are.
I mean, this is what
persistent.
I think. If this happened to me, and it did, this can happen to anybody.
And we don't know currently how many people this is happening to in Georgia.
Absolutely.
Because they have dissolved their maternal health commission.
Absolutely.
On purpose.
On purpose.
All those
because they
ProPublica stories
because they didn't want us to know anymore how many women they're killing.
And when you read those stories of the women who've died in Georgia, I mean, I've got to believe it hits you really, really hard.
It's devastating. I mean, it's horrendous.
So you're here, so first of all, thank you for telling your story. I find it really offensive that we have to ask so many women, that so many women are here telling, and husbands and men in their lives, telling the most intimate, personal details of the most devastating time in your life.
They're all about my cervix, yeah.
Great detail about your cervix. But now I learned something new about what is it called? The seaweed?
The laminaria.
The laminaria. I'm so fascinated by the laminaria now. But you're here telling your story. Can you talk to me? And I know you've testified in Congress. One of the reasons we're here talking to you is because we're focused on the midterms and we want to get these stories out, but we also want to make change. Talk about your activism as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I said that these laws dishonored my family and my expected baby, and I feel one thing I can do to honor him.
Yes.
The child I didn't get to meet.
Yes.
This is who your mom is, right?
Yes.
I cannot go back and have that child. I cannot go back and have my care be undelayed.
Right.
What I can do is I can talk about this and hope to make it a little bit better tomorrow and a lot better in the future. And so I actually, from the hospital bed, while I was waiting for this care, I texted my friends and I said, because this was October 18th, 2024. So we're like 2.5 weeks out from the national election at that time. And I said, who knows a reporter?
Yes.
And I'd actually early voted that morning as well.
Amazing.
I said, who knows a reporter? And a friend did know a reporter at USA Today. So 5 days after my D&E, I gave an hour-long interview from my house. And you can see in the pictures, I'm still gray.
I've seen the pictures,
and crying. And then that went out a week later. And then I got on national TV. I got called a couple days after that because we don't have time to wait.
No.
Right? Like this is still happening every day to people. And so I'm really grateful for the opportunity to talk to you and for convenings like this because, anything we can do, it is bad out there and it's bad out there now.
Well, we are so grateful that you're here. We're so grateful you are willing to speak out, and we're going to have a lot of work to do together in Georgia.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to continuing to working with you.
Absolutely.
And also just you're a badass. I also just think your story is so inspiring, like how when you're entering pregnancy, how you need to be informed and advocate for yourself, because pregnancy is the most dangerous time in most women's lives.
Yes.
And you just gave the playbook. That actually, frankly, is important in states where there aren't abortion bans, because maternal health is in bad shape in this country.
And you got to get that early prenatal care, because God knows if something's wrong and you need to travel.
Well, guess what? We just cut Medicaid, so there's another fight for us to talk about. But one of the big elections we have to, there's a governor's race, but there's a U.S. Senate race. And, a lot of folks ask me, why don't we have a federal law protecting abortion access? I'm like, well, we need to have a federal trifecta. That means win back the House, which I do believe we can do this year, win the White House, which is 2028. And Georgia's going to be critical. But right now, we've got to protect our U.S. Senator Jon Ossoff.
Absolutely.
And I know you and I talked about him. And I know you went and you testified at his invitation. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Senator Ossoff knows the scope of the maternal health and reproductive rights problem in Georgia and nationwide. And he is, I really believe, a true advocate. And his office, somebody saw me on the news, and reached out to me, and they crafted an event. They've done several oversight events. It was me and somebody else who had really difficulty getting care in Georgia, and she actually had to go to New York, and a doctor, a maternal fetal medicine specialist. And he created an opportunity for us to tell our stories and publicize that. And he's done several such events. And I think we need him in Georgia, and we need him in this country for maternal health, for abortion, for reproductive rights, and for so many other reasons.
I agree. And you know what else I love about him? First of all, he's married to an OBGYN.
Yes.
And he's a new dad.
Yes.
So it's really personal.
Yes.
Now, it shouldn't be.
Nope.
But it is, and he brings that extra level of very deep knowledge.
Absolutely.
Married to a scientist and a doctor, but also the experience of just going down through pregnancy.
And I'll say, and he really, and he is really cares about and knowledgeable about this for personal reasons and professional reasons. Like, I know he had read a draft of my statement. Yeah. Senators don't read drafts of statements of everything they do.
He's really
because this really cares. He's really in it.
Yeah, he's really in it. He's a true champion.
Yes.
Well, we have a lot of work to do for Jon Ossoff, but mostly for Georgians, and privileged to do this together with you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you have a really powerful role in this work, and we really hope you will join us in this fight. You can text POD to 59791 to join us. Thanks so much.